Well, thanks a lot, Mary Kay. Appreciate the introduction. And Mark, I don't know how they put you standing in front of me on that last slide in the picture. I thought we took that picture together and I was in front, but AI probably just changes everything at this point, right?
Yeah, the AI knows as we're gonna see, we can totally trust it today. So I'm sure it did the right thing.
Totally trustworthy. Yeah, we're absolutely trusting everything here. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining today's webinar. We're really excited to talk with all of you and really want to hit on the topic that we all know you're here for, which is trying to make sense and understand as much as possible about the new Google AI overviews. So really excited to cover all this.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I mean, there is nothing like this in a long, long time in search. It's probably at least appears to be one of the most disruptive changes to the appearance of search results that we've seen, again, at least in a long, long time. So let's dig in. Let's start off just with a quick overview of what this is. I'm sure just about everybody in the audience by now knows the news that last Tuesday, a week ago, at the Google I/O conference, it was announced, as many people had anticipated, that they were going to begin putting out these AI overviews into the regular search results. So these were something that's been in testing for a year in something called Google Labs that you had to opt into, and they were known as Search Generative Experience, which is a wonderful mouthful. So they rebranded it, brought it out, and started to roll it out to the US this week as AI overviews. So let's take a quick look at what they look like. If you've hopefully seen them by now, this is the basic appearance. This is how they are typically appearing now in the search, coming up in this semi-exposed form. So it's not just a button saying I want an AI overview, nor is it the full thing. It's kind of this semi-expanded version. But they are generative AI responses. So think of ChatGPT. It's very similar to that. What it's basically doing, it has a little twist in it that we'll talk about in a moment, but basically it's AI taking the words that you type in this case, how can I choose the right bicycle? And it's just running mathematical formulas that these vectors that it's put together from its large language model, looking at billions upon billions of words and documents, and being able to say, when those words are together, how can I choose the right bicycle? These are the words that most probably fit that and go with that, and it generates the text response. It's only shown for certain queries. We're going to talk a little bit later about how often we think it's showing up, but it's not in there for everything. It's a very limited set of queries that it's showing up for. And there's two distinctives here that you can recognize it by when you see it, when you start getting it. If you're in the US and your account starts getting it, you'll see these like this. The little AI overview logo there with the Gemini star, because it is powered by Google Gemini. And then down the bottom, this show more bar. As I said, I've been doing hundreds of these searches since I got it coming out into my account a few days ago. And it's in every case that I've seen so far, this is the way it's displaying. Some of you know that in the old Google Labs, it used to sometimes come up as just a button asking if you wanted a generated AI response. Sometimes it showed the full response, but now it's this kind of like partial reveal. You have to click to show more. So that seems to be it for now. Yeah. And as you see here, once you expand it, it's divided up into sections, very typically if it's a longer answer. And each section has its own set of sources. Now, we used to see a lot more sometimes in SGE, but now it always seems to be just 1, 2, or 3 at the most sources for each section. And even calling these sources is a little bit misleading. We'll get into exactly what those are in just a moment. But let's get a little history behind us here, and then we can move on. So as we said, this whole concept first came out a year ago. It seemed to be a very hasty response to the panic that a lot of the tech world went into with the introduction of ChatGPT the fall before. And then for Google in particular, when Bing in March of last year came out with its own AI search add-on to Bing, Google really scrambled. And at the Google I/O conference a year ago, they announced that they were going to be experimenting with what they called Search Generative Experience, these AI generated responses. And by the end of that month, we began to opt into it in Google Labs, and you could be able to see it. And at first, it was everywhere. It was on most of the responses, most of your queries, all kinds of queries, even some things that we were kind of shocked that it was showing for. Yeah. Later that year, They expanded it beyond the US to 120 countries, very notably not the UK or the EU. And when you hear those two together, you think regulations. Those two are very upfront on regulating AI, particularly this type of AI, because the feeling there is that it's actually stealing content from publishers. So Google's just ignoring them, at least for now. Then this is an odd one to have on a timeline because it's something that didn't happen. Google told us that in the US that the experiment would end in December. They were telling us that all along, even right up to the beginning of December. So a lot of people thought, well, sometime after that, they're going to roll it out into everybody's search. But January 1st came and went. Happy New Year. No change. It was still in labs for a long time. And there was even a blog post in January from Google that seemed to note that, yeah, we're just going to keep it there. It's a good experiment. We'll keep it going and see what gels out of it. But then things began to change, and we began to hear more and more hints that it might be coming soon. And then the biggest one of those, just want to note here, in late March, they started testing it with some non-labs users. And when they started doing that, we said, okay, it's going to come out in some way. And as we said last week, it is. It's coming out. So rolling out to US users first. And then all they said beyond that is about 1 billion people by the end of the year. They didn't say anything about what countries or languages. So one more background thing, and then we'll get into stuff that we really want to know here. Just I think this is interesting to know just how this works, so you know what you're seeing when you see these results. So going through this very simply, this seems to be the model that it's following. So in the beginning, just like ChatGPT, it sees your words that you type in the query, and it generates a response, a text response, just like ChatGPT would. The extra step here that Google has included, which is interesting, is that then there's an algorithm that goes out and selects a small group of documents, and by documents here I mean web pages off the web, that have text on them, information on them that seems to relate to the information or the text that the AI has created. Those are used as checks. And they are what you see in the results. We'll show you that again in a moment. So they're not actually the sources of the original text, but they're used as a check against it, basically a fact checker. If there's anything in those documents that seems to directly contradict what the AI came up with initially, it's changed and before the document goes out. And then there might be, we don't know if they're actually doing this anymore on any scale, but there's kind of an evaluation purpose to score the answer and evaluate whether it's worth showing or not. So that's basically the background of it. But that's where these come from. So when you first open up an AI response, you get by default now the top sections check sources, and that's what I'm going to call them because again they're the pages that were used to check what you see in the paragraph above. So that's the way you should think of those. And then, as we noted, you go down. Now, a few other things that Google has said recently in the past week, as we're going in here, just are good to know. They said, we find it most useful when people want to quickly understand information from a range of sources. So it's most useful as a summary tool. And that's why, as you're going to see, we're seeing it mostly for those kinds of queries, for informational queries, and especially where people want to do something. They want to get something done. They want to know the steps of something. They have a task they want to do. That's where they're finding it's most useful, and that's what they're mostly, not exclusively, but mostly showing it for. A few other things, just some great quotes to grab out from the documentation that that was really surprising. They put out this quickly documentation for AI overviews. Speaking to publishers, because everybody wants to know, well, how do I benefit from it? How do I get in it? They said, no actions needed. Basically they're saying there's nothing you can do. The selection is automatic. So it's just going to show links to resources that support the information, as we said before, explore the topic further from a diverse range of publishers, creators, businesses, etc. Now, to rank in AI overviews, in other words, to show as one of the clickable sources or check sources in there, they're just saying do what you normally do. Just create your content, create great content. If the AI thinks your content is relevant, it may show it. So as we're going to see when we get into examples here, a lot of the normal things we think about for SEO, for how we rank, for how we get to the first page of Google are not what counts in this. It's more what's on the page and the relevance of what's on the page.
I tend to have some real control issues, so I don't like being told there's no action to take care. So,
We're
that's
gonna we're gonna actually cheat them a little bit as we usually do, and at the end here, we're gonna give you a few actions that you might want to take.
so I've already gotten so many questions from our clients and other people that I interact and network with in our industry, just about what our initial views are as far as what the impact is, and if we can predict what future impact might be. But what I would love to hear from you is there an impact? We're a week and a half into this thing? Are we seeing an impact?
Yes, and it's not what a lot of people expected. So this is the big question, right? What's the impact of it? There were a lot of people that were out there that were looking at it in SGE and thinking like it's going to be huge. There was a study from Gartner saying it was going to kill, I don't know, it was like 86% of the traffic or something like that. But not the case. We can say it right away. Take a breath. Here's a great example. Our CEO, Middle Gandhi, published this on LinkedIn. He went and took 100 keywords, excuse me, that are very relevant for the car industry. These are very high volume keywords that the auto industry uses, excuse me, the insurance industry, auto related, but insurance industry. And out of those 100 keywords, he got an AI result for 5 of them, 5%. So that's even below the average we were seeing, way below the average we were seeing in SGE. That's on the low side. I'm going to show you in a moment. We've gone beyond that now. We've asked 10 of our clients so far to give us their 100 most important keywords, the keywords that matter most to them. And we went out and did the searches, did the research, and found how often is an AI overview result showing for those. And a little drum roll maybe from Chris. Oh, by the way, yeah, I just want to mention that Middle came up with a little term that I really love and I'm going to be using a lot, and that is QDS, or Query Deserves Summary. And it's not a Google term, but it's simply the way we can talk about how Google decides, does this query deserve an AI summary?
I think it's awesome. I think it's really a good way to put it. All
Yeah.
right, drum roll happened.
Oh, there's drum roll. Okay, the drum roll. There it is. This is again very preliminary results, but we again notice or remember what I said, that these are 100 keywords from 10 very diverse clients. What they told us, these are the keywords that matter to us. And as an average across those, we're seeing it 18% of the time. So again, that means that Google is displaying an AI overview result about 18% of the time. Now, it varied widely from the different clients, the different industries that they were in, to as low as 5% to almost 25%. So, it's going to depend on the keyword set. These are, again, admittedly small keyword sets, but this is our first glimpse at this and saying, how much of the time is this going to occur? It's less than we saw in SGE, a little more than I expected as an average. So interesting.
It seems like a big number, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. We'll keep updating that as we go, as we get more and more of those tests in. So let's look at the changes here, how things changed. This is transactional intent search here. And SGE was showing for a while. It was tempting to show something that was, similar to what you would see in the normal product results for a query like sunglasses. But now we don't see that in AIO. And in fact, I ran hundreds over the last several days of these head term kind of transactional, the things I know Google sees as transactional because they immediately show product results. They show those filters and all kinds of things like that. They are not showing AIO for any of these. So if you're in e-commerce and you were sweating about it, for now, you can stop sweating. You can breathe a little bit. It looks like they realized it's not as useful there, so they're not showing it for that. Now, it doesn't mean anything transactional isn't showing. For longer tail kinds of queries, more informational queries that still have some transactional intent to them, sometimes you will see it. But in these kinds of head terms, somebody says, I just want to buy some sunglasses, and they type sunglasses into Google, they're not getting this type of result.
Yeah.
Okay, informational queries here. So again, back in SGE, back in the old days in the labs, I put how to play mandolin here because I do play mandolin, and it's not something I have to search for anymore. Thankfully, my band is very thankful for that. But here, in SGE, I was offered a generative AI experience. You see that old, very contracted version of it that we don't see anymore. Whereas now, something like this, well, you might think it would be useful to get that kind of result. We're not
Yeah.
seeing it. So my conclusion is that the QDS, the query deserved summary, has gone down significantly, especially in informational queries over as we came out to AIO. They're being much more conservative about what they show it for.
It's really interesting. I have my own set of favorite keywords that I like to always go back and
Mhm.
search just to see how landscapes change. And the answer boxes have fluctuated a lot. So that one's interesting. Now I can confirm you're great at playing the mandolin, Mark. But that is a how-to term, feels like it does deserve to have a summary, right?
Yeah, yeah. It has to be a little more complex than that, I think. And by the way, the reason that this is a good thing to jump back and say that 18% figure might be skewed a little high, actually, for most users, because the clients that we're talking to have informational queries that do mean a lot to them that tend to be a little bit more complex. Let's say, insurance, like uh, what's the best way to buy auto insurance if I don't live in the state or something like that, right?
Yeah.
That might drive a lot of traffic for one of our clients, but it's a more complex informational query. So it is showing for them, the AI, that is. So, there might be a little bit of a skew there in terms of like the types of queries that matter to them.
Yeah.
In this. But here's a YMYL example. We were surprised that it showed up for this at all. If you don't know the term, YMYL means your money, your life. It means search queries that have to do with your health, with your finances, your well-being, your mental health, all those kinds of things. Like really, really critical information. Like I shouldn't even say do or die because it's almost literally that in some cases. And they were showing it and they're continuing to show it for some, again, not all the time, but for, more of these kind of YML things than we thought. And they're taking some grief for that on social media, Twitter, places like that. I see a lot of people complaining about like, this is really dangerous. Like this is misinformation, calling out some of them, it's not the best place to be getting your health or financial information, but we're kind of surprised Google's showing that. So there's some surprises in here on that.
Yeah.
And I just want to note also when Google sees some commercial intent here, which is not the case for most of where they show it, but sometimes it is. As you can see here, the ads are appearing above. They always, so far, I've seen, are above the AI result. So they're preserving that.
Also want to point out that the AIO result is still huge. So not only do you have the
Oh,
ad, but you still
yeah.
have a really large
And
result.
I cut this down just for reference. Like there was actually 4 ads above that. So
Wow.
I cut it down just to fit on the screen, but there were 4 ads. Then the AI overview, which is longer than you see here. I cut that down too before
Yeah.
you get to any link. So for a result like this, a question like this, how to refinance my home, if that's a big money, a big driver for you, this will be high impact. So the impact, the real answer is it's going to vary widely from query to query,
Yeah.
uh, how much it takes up. But
Yeah.
on the subject of ads, also just announced today. They've been talking about this for a year. We've never seen it. That they are going to start putting some ads in some AI results. So when it's this type of result, the example they gave is like something like if you said, how can I clean my kitchen counter? And they might have an AI, basic set of steps, directions, and then down at the bottom there'd be a carousel of products that you could use to clean your kitchen counter. So that's coming soon.
Yeah.
The monetization of this, which will push the pixels down even further, of course.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at local. This one's very interesting because SGE was showing local sometimes for me back in the day, and now it's not at all. Can't find. I just ran bunches of things that would call up local map results, the 3-pack, all those kind of things, and we talk about in local search, not showing at all. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute here about why I think that is, why they withdrew it from that.
Yeah.
So again, no AI result in either version now, and they even took it out of SGE now too. It's so bad.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And finally, I just want to mention, we're talking about impact. There's been a lot of backlash. It's always hard to gauge, like, how representative is this? But A lot of people that watch the Google forums and things like that have said that they've rarely seen anything like this, just from regular users. These are not from SEOs. This is regular users, just by the hundreds, just coming in and overwhelming the Google search community forums with, how do I get rid of this thing? How do I turn it off? You can see their Google Trends chart for turn off Google AI. You know how that spiked over the last week. So there's some user backlash going on here now, which we'll be able to see. Be interesting to see how they react to that over time. I think the reason this matters is because one of the things that I always said when I was talking to our clients about this back in the SGE days before this came out was, if the old, to paraphrase the movie phrase, if they build it, will they come? And, will users actually want to use it? Now, Google says users do like it, I think, for certain kinds of queries, like, getting that, again, that summary. At times, I'll admit, I've found it useful. Like, if I want to know how to do something, get a quick summary, I still will often go and check other sources on it, which is a good news for publishers. But just anecdotally, could tell you, my wife, the day that it appeared in her search, she messaged me right away, like, how do I get rid of this thing? How do I turn it off? I have to scroll so far now to get to what I want to see.
Yeah.
So if users aren't using it that much or don't like it, the impact, we talk about impact, it may be less than we think.
It makes me think just a little bit about if we're going to take an optimistic view of this and how you can look at the results and make updates to your own content. For a long time, we've been correlating Google rewriting titles and meta descriptions to Google not appreciating text that is very search engine-ish and rewriting it to be more readable, human readable. Things like removing pipes and putting dashes and rewriting it to feel more advertising or just to be something that any human would read. So I think optimistically, we could look at some of these results and understand more of how Google is positioning that more human legible content and take note on how we can better optimize our own content.
Yeah, good points. I love that. So that's a good segue to talk about our first takeaways here. Stop for a moment and say, like, what are we thinking here? So the first thing to know is that the initial release of AIO, as we're calling it for short, is extremely limited. It's almost entirely informational. And when we say extremely limited, we're comparing it now again to SGE. So all the doom and gloom predictions that you heard, it's going to steal all your traffic, all that you heard from before last week, was based on the wrong information. It's not what we're actually seeing out there. Not at all to say you shouldn't be concerned. Not at all to say that, remember that I said one of those clients that we did research for, out of their 100 keywords, 25% of them were, up there. It's what brought the average up. So it can have varying impact depending on where you are and what matters to you. We'll be tracking it, of course. We give you some initial numbers here. We're going to keep watching it and watch for increases as the data becomes available. And we recommend for you, as soon as you have access, if you do, start doing what we did. Test the queries that matter most for you. You're going to have to do it manually for now because Google's not showing it in a way that any tool can track. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But this is, you can go out and start testing manually as we've been doing and seeing, like, is it showing up for queries that make a difference for you? All right, Chris.
Yeah, so every time I see this slide, for whatever reason, all I think about is Heath Ledger's Joker saying, "Why so serious?" Like they keep showing up in my mind. So here's a question. I think there's been a lot of pressure from the tech industry and tech media about this race to AI. Are the biggest companies going to be pushing out a service or a product that has AI tied to it to continue to evolve? What does that mean? Are they going to be appropriate with their AI? And as we were talking about a little earlier, it seemed very sudden for Google to announce it and push it out, just from what we were seeing in SGE and labs. But it's still kind of limited. I know 18% of keywords in our small study that we did. We'll continue to do those studies and expand the keyword list to understand it. But as far as the types of results and what we're seeing within the results, it seems like there's some limitation to it.
Yeah.
Opposed to just going all in. So what are your thoughts, or why do you think the overviews are so limited.
Yeah, I think there's great reasons why that it changed so much from SGE from labs into what we're seeing out in the public now, out in the wild, so to speak. And there are some things I've been talking about to our clients for months. This is you only hear my predictions when they come true. That's the only time you'll hear them. So you're hearing one now because I was predicting for months that this is exactly how it would come out, that it would be very limited, that it would be almost all for informational queries. And I'm going to show you why. First thing to remember, again, all those doom and gloom predictions, end of the world, SEO is dead, all that, based that this was an experiment until now. It was in labs, it was an opt-in experiment. And in an experiment, you throw everything against the wall. You throw all the spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. So I never believed that the extent that we were seeing and the kind of results that we were seeing it for in SGE were indicative of what we'd necessarily see when it rolled out. As we've been seeing, that's the case. It's much more limited than what we were seeing in SGE. So let's do some comparisons here, again, that are instructive, because each of these, I'm showing single examples, these are based on hundreds and hundreds of examples that I found that were similar to this. So Chris, let me ask you this. There's a question here.
Okay.
If somebody typed booking hotels into Google, what do you think they're trying to do?
I would say they're trying to book a hotel room.
That's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I think it's what any of us would say seeing that. But look at what the first page of Google shows very typically. Look closely at that.
Yeah.
It's booking.com all the way down.
Yeah.
This turns out to be actually a navigational result. The booking in booking hotels, there are people thinking of booking.com as their brand is booking. So they're typing booking hotels. That's what they want. How does Google know that? We know how they know that from watching click behavior. What do people click on? I'm sure at one time the booking hotel results were much more diverse. And Google saw no, people just keep finding the booking.com result and clicking on that one. So that's what they want for this. But when we looked at it in SGE, we just get kind of a general roundup. And my point here is that this was very typical, that the intent shown in the SGE result very often did not match the intent we saw in the regular results, which tells me that there was no filter for that. They aren't using the incredible ability that Google has to sense and show intent and know kind of what to show you for what you're typing in. SGE is just like ChatGPT again. It's just taking a wild guess. It's saying like booking hotels. It's kind of thinking the same thing you do. So I'm going to give you a bunch of different places where you can book hotels. In fact, sometimes in this result back in SGE, it even had like a little paragraph at the top explaining how to book a hotel, which I don't think anybody was looking for. Not surprised this is not showing. There's no AIO result for booking hotels now because it was not useful. The AI isn't capable of showing the right intent, so they just don't show it. I think it's a lot of the cases where it's not showing now are because of that. Another factor where it's not using the signals that Google has spent 25 years or more developing is in the area of authority and trust. So here's a great question. How to check a used car before buying. I typed this in from Durham, North Carolina, but the first two check sources I get are from Dubizzle is kind of the Dubai version of Craigslist, and the Nova Scotia government site. And I probably could have extended that circle out to Carfax. I notice now it's Carfax EU. So again, not the most relevant sources for what I'm asking. I want to know how to buy a used car in North Carolina, but the AI is blind to that, and it's not using it's not finding. We often see the sources that it shows. Sometimes they're strange. Sometimes they're from even questionable sites. So it's just simply matching up. It's saying like, oh, these pages have words on them that are similar to the words that our AI produced. So they might be good sources of information. So kind of, that thrown out the window. So again, I'm just building a case here of reasons why I think they didn't release it as fully as that. And again, this result, if I type that query in now, not showing an AIO result. No surprise to me.
We could have it all wrong, Mark. Nova Scotia may be the pinnacle of knowledge around buying a used car.
I'll have to head up there to buy my next used car. Okay, so one more here, lack of usefulness. So this is a purchase intent search here. The sunglasses is the one I showed before. Google's become very sophisticated in being super useful for this, right? Look at, the tabs across the top, the filters on the side. It's an Amazon style page, right? You can narrow down right to what you want. SGE made some attempt at that, But again, not as many features, not as many filters, not as many things to use. So not as useful. Why would you include a result that's not as useful as what you already have? So not surprisingly, again, not showing an AIO result anymore. So it's limited for now, is what we're saying. But how will I know the impact on my SEO? That's the question, right, Chris? Like that's what really matters. Like, okay, Mark, you said like it's maybe small overall, it's not as big as we suspected, but what about my SEO? How are we going to know that?
Yeah, I think, and it'll continue to be the case. I
Yeah.
think best practices probably will not be a thing when it comes to AIO. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be more about understanding at the industry and competitive level and keyword set and intent on how to best get positioned to be able to be picked up and put into those results.
Well, I think the good news is that no matter what, the first step, of course, right, is knowing the impact, knowing like where is it impacting me, where is it potentially impacting me, even so I know where to look, I know where I might need to be concerned, and the good news is that seoClarity, we were born ready. Now,
Yeah,
Chris,
yeah.
you
Go ahead.
but I was going to say, like, how many times in your experience, you and I have been around in SEO forever. How many times would you say SEO has died over the years?
I've been to more funerals than I can count, Mark.
That's very sad. Yeah, we just keep our black coats, hung on the back of the door because we don't even put them in the closet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, SEO has been declared dead so many times it's become a joke, and no difference here. As I said, there were lots of articles you can go out and find, lots of studies and things like this that this was going to kill SEO. Is out there, but there's been that happen before. So I just want to bring up a couple examples here, from the past, the
Yeah.
ghosts of the past, if you will.
Yeah.
The first one was not provided. Do you remember that, Chris?
I remember it extremely clearly. I mean, 2013, although it feels like that was still when Chris Cross was telling me to jump and jump. But yeah, I remember the date this went down.
Yeah, it was kind of like it was one of those you were there moments that you don't forget. Yeah, when Google all of a sudden started taking away showing the keywords in analytics. Used to be able to, back in the glory days, used to be able to see all your keywords and match them up exactly with your stats. And they just took that away. They said it was privacy concerns, whatever, that information over the course of the year completely disappeared. But we were ready. Tell us how we were ready, Chris.
The good news is we had already been working through several different types of capabilities to address this because we knew for a long time that Google was slowly reducing the amount of keywords not provided, term not provided. And so we had developed various ways to be able to understand what traffic you might have been getting from those keywords to the point where then we then implemented an integration with Google Search Console and haven't looked back since.
So tell us about that solution.
All right. So, search analytics, which is, in my opinion, Google Search Console data is an incredibly valuable source of data. And right now in seoClarity, you could see, depending on your integration, up to 100% of all the clicks, all the keywords that are driving clicks to your site. And not only could you see all of those keyword and URL matches in the platform, you can slice, you see all the filters that we have on the left-hand side, you can slice and dice. You can even look at the folder level of your pages to understand clicks, impressions, and we also pull in CTR. So we're able to bring in from your Search Console data, click-through rate data directly into the platform so that we can look at your keyword performance. We can filter based off of keyword types like brand versus non-brand. We can filter based off of page types and see performance. And then we can correlate to what CTR is and get to know more about your brand, non-brand, or other keyword types and what your true click performance is on that first page of Google. So we've been preparing for a long time for all the different adjustments or takeaways that Google will often do from data that's available to us. Search analytics has been a great innovation.
So another death of SEO moment that I remember where I was when I heard it, was answer boxes, or as Google eventually came to call them, featured snippets. And everybody thought that's the end because Google's showing answers to, talk about AI answers here. Google's just picking out one website. Thankfully, in this case, it's us, and taking a snippet off the page and showing the answer. So there was immediate concern. How much are these affecting us? Where are these showing up in our search? Because these are going to draw a lot of clicks, and they did over time, and people developed strategies to want to get in the answer box. But we had a response to that right away. We could, almost immediately we were able to show people what was happening with these.
So the answer box result was going to be the exact result that you heard Google tell you when you asked where the nearest sandwich shop was. Now we track. We've counted thousands of features that show up in various combinations in all the SERPs, and we've been tracking the most popular and heavily populated Google features for years now. So even within our platform, you have the ability to go in, look at all the keywords you're tracking, how many are triggering an answer box. And here, not only can you see how many keywords there's an answer box result or this featured snippet result, but then you can also see how many are you actually in? What's your real estate? How many answer boxes are you actually the result for? So a lot of cool ways to be able to look at it. Answer box, images, the new discussion in forums, which is part of that Reddit Google partnership. So many different ways on how you can understand how these features are impacting or rewarding you in the result pages.
Right. So we're telling all these stories from the past just to say we ain't afraid of no ghosts at seoClarity. And we're not afraid of the AI overview ghosts either. So we are ready for it. When we're ready for it is what we call visibility share. Talk about that, Chris.
So visibility share is a new type of rank tracking. We've had visibility share out for some years now. And for a long time, from those companies that have massively huge websites, that have global presence, we were getting questions about, can you count pixels from the top? Pixels from the top. How many pixels from the top is my result? So we came up with visibility share a long time ago, which allows you to understand for the keywords you care about or that you're tracking, what is your overall pixel real estate? How much is your brand represented from a pixel depth above and below the fold? It's really a way that we can understand more using search analytics data and visibility share as to what the true impact and how your results may be pushed down from that AIO result. And by the way, every time I've seen an overview, there's also a people also ask and an answer box that's right below it, right? So this is taken up 60% of this first page, often from a pixel standpoint. I always love the result that you're showing here too, banana bread recipe. This is my favorite screenshot of all the terms that are on here. But this is a very clear path to really understanding how your brand may be impacted from being minimized or pushed down on the first page of Google.
Yeah, so you'll be able to do early forensics. I'm calling it with this kind of thing, is seeing before we even get the data that tools are able to see on the exact presence of these. You'll be able to detect and see in different segments. Our pixel depth has gone way down. What's happening here? Dig in a little deeper, you might find that it's because of these AI results.
You can also compare your competitors too, right? That's the beauty of it.
Yep. Yeah, it's exactly what's happening with competitors. So one of the main places that it'll be showing up that we will be tracking it when the information is available is in what we call SERP features.
SERP features is just like when we're looking at answer boxes. SERP features is the place where we list all of the most popular Google features that are showing up in the SERPs, and we'll be able to immediately, because we've been preparing for some time now, since you told us to, Mark. Feels like probably when it first rolled out. We've been preparing to be able to capture and report on that AI overview. So not only can you track and see how many of your keywords are triggering the AIO, you can also compare that to other features and understand, that AIO, is there people also ask that shows up? Is there any other feature that may be appearing around my results? You'll not only be able to compare all of them side by side, but then also understand more of, again, the impact of AIO as a feature within your SERP.
And finally, another place to do that kind of forensic work and see where it might happen, because if when the real estate's taken up by something else like an AI result, typically your CTR for your regular results is going to go down. And this is something that nobody else has that I know of, this trended CTR.
So we have been for a long time trying to help our customers answer the question, why is my ranking maintaining, but my impressions and clicks are dropping? It's since COVID, it's been one of the most frustrating things that storylines that SEOs are trying to explain upwards. Because truly, if you're ranking still number one, but all of a sudden impressions are down 20% month over month or year over year, it likely always has to do with other features that are showing. But more and more SEOs are starting to see the value and importance of thinking about how not only do you maximize and improve your visibility, but then how do you get people to click through and get to your pages? So we have been not only pulling in CTR data from search analytics for a really long time, but you also get a daily, weekly, monthly view of what your CTR looks like. So now, more holistically, if AIO is showing up or any other big feature is showing up, it may not be showing up on every result and every day or every time of the day. So now you can see, coupled with all the other data, log file data that we have, crawl data, ranking data, really understand what the overall impact is with these features.
And then one more thing that's going to become very important for our clients in being able to see this and know where it happens is SERP previews.
This might be one of my most favorite things that we have in our platform, one of my favorite capabilities. Every time we rank check a keyword that is part of our client subscriptions, we take an image of the SERP and we store that image. We store it so that you can go back and compare two dates to be able to see when we went out on a specific date, whether it's Google Desktop, Google Mobile, or any other search engine. When you go back to a specific date, you can see what the SERP actually looked like. This is incredibly powerful because it's one thing to see a rank position. It's another thing to look at visibility share and your pixel depth or your pixel ownership above and below the fold. But it's a completely different view when you're looking at the results here. Even looking at it right now, this is a dramatically different feel, and it really helps tell the reporting story and then also better understand some things that you may be able to do to overcome.
Yeah, fantastic to be able to see that, right away go in and say, like, I think there might be something here. You click once and you actually see the change between any two dates you want to select. So a question that's come up and something that I've seen, I've been talking a lot online about, because I'm starting to see some people saying like, oh yeah, we're tracking that. We're showing, so saw one vendor saying like, yeah, it's only about 1% of the results. And I said, what? I don't think it's that low. And the question is, can we track this kind of result yet? And the answer to true is that nobody can. We're going to deal with you very honestly here from seoClarity. If anybody is telling you that they are tracking AI results and giving results for that, they're not telling you the straight story. They don't understand it themselves, because every platform, every SEO platform, every tool out there uses incognito mode to view the SERPs. And at huge scale, when you're talking about billions of pages every day that we look at. We use incognito mode because that removes all the personalization. You're getting the kind of pure result, as it were, or purest as you can possibly get, the average across what everybody might see. Because Google has a certain amount of personalization that they include in their results these days. And the fact of the matter is, you see the side-by-side comparison, again, for my favorite keyword here, how to choose a bicycle size, or related to it. Anyway, it is showing an AI result. You see on the left, that's as of today. It is not showing an incognito. So it can't be tracked yet. Google has chosen not to show it in incognito. They load it a different way. So at this point, it can't be directly tracked. So that goes back to why all those things that Chris just showed you, all those capabilities within seoClarity, become very important for right now. Because how we're going to see this is, I said, forensically. Again, if you're not familiar with that term, means like kind of what a detective does, right? Walks into the room and says, I see a bloody knife laying on the floor here. I think a murder happened here. Well, where you might see the murder of your CTR or your pixel depth or things like that on the things we just showed you. And then you can dig deeper. You can actually look in the SERPs and say, aha, there is an AI result there. And that's probably what's pushing us down and why we're not getting as much traffic or CTR for that term. So we just want to be upfront with everybody here. Now, what are those tools? What are they seeing? Because they're reporting something. Well, we discovered just yesterday, as a matter of fact, that there are occasionally these things like knowledge panel, these top insights, these kind of special features that sometimes show up in search, especially in the sidebar, where they are sometimes showing an AI overview. But notice there in the red box, it's small o. This is not the AI overviews that we're all talking about today. This is kind of a mini overview, little summary within the SERP feature itself. So these tools are picking up those words, AI overviews, because these do show an incognito and thinking that is AI overviews. It's not. So just wanted to, full disclosure, we are not going to give our clients any information or data that we don't 100% know is accurate and is right. And if we can't provide it, we're not going to provide it. Where we can, we will. That's always the way we're going to deal with it. So the takeaway here is make sure that your SEO platform is ready, because we are, to give you data and insights in this new era of AI search, whatever way we can give them to you. Right now, we're offering to all of our clients, anybody who's already an SEO client, Clarity client, if you're listening out there, send us your top 100 keywords, 100 keywords that matter most to you, and we will do the searches. We will run it through for you, and we will report back to you how much AI is showing up for that, AI overviews, and on which ones. So please take advantage of that while we wait for more information to come in. The main message we want you to take away today: don't panic. The vast majority of the AI responses are very long tail, low search volume. In most cases, that they're not things that are going to have an impact for you. I haven't heard from any sites that are saying legitimately that they're seeing some big disruption from this over the last few days. Where it appears, what you should do is not panic, but assess how important are those queries for you. If you see it on a certain query, dang, we ranked #1 for that, but oh, look, we only got 10 traffic a month from it or something like that. So not something we really need to worry about. And then to play the game, to get into it, become one of those sources in there. Just make your content as clear, complete, and well-structured as possible to have any chance of appearing in the AI. So thank you so much for your attention today. We hope that we sparked some interest in you. We bet there's a lot of questions, so we're going to hand it back over to Mary Kate and allow her to give us those questions, and we'll interact with as many as we can as we have time for here. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, everybody.